Hey guys, welcome to the Digit Show where we wrap up the latest and the trending news of the week, the reviews that we've covered and some interesting feature stories just for you. So let's kick things off with the news. Now, one of the most interesting pieces of news that came out this week was that you can actually experience the OnePlus 2 in an Airtel store near you. The only catch is that you can do this in Delhi, Mumbai or Bangalore, so you're limited in terms of the number of cities. Nonetheless, if you're someone that's interested in picking up a OnePlus 2, you can experience the smartphone in an Airtel store. Moving on, Sony took IFA by storm by announcing the Xperia Z4 Premium. The smartphone has a 4K display and is very impressive to look at. Another piece of interesting news that popped up this week is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself has taken the initiative to ask the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India to look into the issue of call drops. So the TRAI is going to investigate with the telecom companies to figure out why all the call drops are happening. Another very interesting piece of news that popped out is that Android Wear is now compatible with iOS. So if you're someone that's rocking an iPhone but doesn't want to invest in an Apple Watch, you can take a look at any smartwatch running on Android Wear and pair it with your Apple Watch. A little bit of serious news. Now Google has asked the CCI not to leak information in search dominance abuse case. If found guilty, Google could stand to face a fine of about $1.4 billion. And the CCI has been investigating for nearly 3 years now, so things seem pretty serious when it comes to Google. Moving on, our reviewer Hardik has been spending some time with the new HP NV14 laptop. Priced at about 80,000 rupees, the laptop is expensive but ideal if you're someone that's interested in gaming and working on the same machine. Here is Hardik's quick review of the HP NV14. The HP NV14 may feel like an office-going laptop, but the internals are on the edge of being a proper gaming laptop. The laptop is powered by an Intel Core i7 5th generation processor coupled with 12 GB of RAM and has a 1 TB hard drive. The NVIDIA GeForce 950M handles the graphics performance. The 950M comes from NVIDIA's latest GPU lineup. It may not be the best of the 9 series, but it can get the job done. With this card, you can play Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition on high settings at almost 60 frames per second. However, the laptop will run out of steam and frame rates if you try to up the graphics settings. The laptop has a 14-inch matte display with a 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution. One of the cons of the laptop is that the trackpad isn't very comfortable to use. Like every other premium segment laptop, the HP NV14 features an aluminum top, but the bottom half is still plastic, which isn't that bad if you ask us. On either side of the keyboard lie the two Bang & Olufsen speakers, which are loud enough and offer a really great sound output. The laptop has the usual set of ports comprising of 3 USB ports, 1 Ethernet port and 1 HDMI port. There is a combined headphones cum microphone jack and an SD card slot as well. Considering the package on offer, the laptop isn't heavy, weighing 2 kilos. The HP NV14 is good but isn't perfect. All in all, after a day's work, if you want to play a game or two, then you can consider the HP NV14 as your weapon of choice. Now, a lot of smartphone makers have been throwing the terminology laser autofocus around while launching their smartphones. It's a feature that is related to the camera of the smartphones. So what is laser autofocus and should you really care? Well, Varun is going to break down the laser autofocus myth and test 3 smartphones that boast of this capability.
Lasers! A laser. Would you be amazed to find out you can buy a smartphone with a laser in it? Maybe if this was May 2014. That's when LG came out with the G3, the first smartphone with laser-assisted autofocus. Since then, a number of mobile manufacturers have added laser-assisted autofocus as a camera feature. Even LG added it to the new G4. In fact, here we have 3 of the latest smartphones with laser-assisted autofocus: the Asus Zenfone Laser, the OnePlus 2, and the LG G4. Now, how does laser-assisted autofocus work? There's a small transmitter located on the back of the handset near the camera sensor. The first step involves firing out a short laser light burst, which is then reflected back off whatever you happen to be pointing the camera at. This light then travels back towards the sensor, where the software calculates the time it takes for the light to leave and return, resulting in a very accurate measurement of how far away the target object is. Isn't that fascinating? But at Digit, while we marvel at all the cool tech, we also have to put it to the test. So today, we're subjecting these 3 to our 3-step laser-assisted focus test. Let's begin. Number 1. The rocking test. Rocking the mobile back and forth helps us find out how quickly the laser adjusts to being shifted while the distance is static. all the manufacturers claim their lasers take less than 1/30th of a second to focus, and here you can see the results for yourself. All three smartphones claim at least 1/30th of a second focusing time, and at that speed, our first test didn't find any reason to doubt the claim. LG G4 and Asus Zenfone 2 laser appeared to lock just slightly faster than the OnePlus 2. All three passed the test with equal accuracy. Number 2. The distance test. Keeping three objects at different distances allows us to see how the laser performs when it is kept static and the laser adjusts to objects both near and far. In other words, what is the effect when the laser has to travel further or less distance? The LG G4 had slightly faster focusing when we tested across objects at three different distances. It looks more accurate in terms of speed, and the larger aperture of f1.8 allows for better bokeh effects. While the OnePlus 2 has an aperture of f2.0, the Zenfone 2 laser boasts the same amount. But clearly, all three do their best work in close-up shots. Number 3. The moving object test. Now, when we take an object like a ball, or as you can see Lego Cyclops here, and move him back and toward the camera, what you'll notice is the laser has to keep changing the amount of distance it travels. As the distance changes, the laser has to constantly readjust the focus. Here we test the speed and accuracy of the laser. So in this test again, the G4 was the fastest and most precise, followed by the OnePlus 2 and the Zenfone 2. But that's also down to the difference in processing engines of the three phones. It's time for the final summary. So in all three tests, the LG G4 came out ahead. But to be fair, the LG G4 is a flagship priced at Rs 38,999 over the OnePlus 2 priced at Rs 24,999. That's if you can actually get one, and the Asus Zenfone 2 laser costs 10K. The laser itself is fast in all three phones with just a slight variation across the board, which we think can mostly be attributed to the camera's processing engine. So, lasers!
A sophisticated heat beam, which we call a laser.
What used to be high-end tech now fits into a 10K smartphone, and based on the results of our tests, we easily expect it to be in phones all across the future.
Moving on from laser autofocus, Sony recently announced the Xperia C4 smartphone in India, and our reviewer Shavik has spent some time with the smartphone. Here is his review of the phone.
The Sony Xperia C4 Dual inherits the Xperia design, with softer rounded edges on the sides and corners. There is no metal used in the phone's build except for the round unlock power button, which is distinctly Sony. The sides are made of matte plastic with a muted shimmer on its finish. The finish on the Xperia C4's back has the same tone. The sides are tucked into the back panel and the groove runs all across the device's frame. Standard branding, camera, LED flash, speaker, grille, and a front-facing noise cancellation microphone adorn the back. Despite being made of matte plastic and quoting a price of nearly 30K, Sony has tried its best to make the Xperia C4 look and feel premium. While it does somewhat manage to do so in terms of looks, the phone still feels hard-pushed to be tagged premium. Sony has used a 5.5-inch IPS panel LCD display with the resolution of 1080 by 1920 pixels on the Sony Xperia C4 Dual. The display is brilliant. Sharp colors, high contrast level, and ample brightness give a rich tone to photos and videos. Viewing angles are amazing. I could make out the details on the screen even at beyond 87 degrees. Sony's custom Xperia UI is quite smooth and pleasant to look at, although it stutters while swiping through pages or scrolling down menus under a slight extra load on the screen. The Xperia UI retains a lot from Android's stock appearance, but the synchronization between the stock components of the UI along with Sony's custom skin, like the rest of the phone, is seamless. Once a few pre-installed apps are removed, the UI feels distinctly faster. The Sony Xperia C4 Dual is powered by a 64-bit MediaTek MT6752 octa-core SoC clocked at 1.7 GHz. It also has 2 GB of RAM to aid multitasking, although real-life usage somewhat slows it down. The CPU starts throttling, and most stutters while gaming start after about 15 to 20 minutes of continuous gaming in an air-conditioned environment. Regular multitasking, that is playing music while testing, posting updates to Facebook and Instagram, is decently handled. Wi-Fi reception remained steady even while I was in a call. While network retention and in-call audio through the earpiece is flawless, the down-firing electret condenser microphone picks up too much ambient noise. And in very noisy surroundings, the only way I could talk over the phone was by placing a hand right beneath the microphone and yelling. This is a major disappointment. The 13-megapixel Sony Xperia R CMOS BSI sensor has produced images that exceeded expectations in a dark hall with blue and green lasers, but failed under normal daylight or fluorescent conditions. It somehow seems more adept in clicking photographs in lower light conditions. In fact, the front camera is the biggest disappointment here. For a selfie-oriented smartphone, the Sony Xperia C4 takes poor photographs out of its front camera, even in broad daylight. Images are pixelated, colors appear bleached, and the best you get out of the Xperia C4 would have been great some 2 years back. The Sony Xperia C4 Dual's battery is good, easily lasting through a day. Leaving it on standby on full charge with Wi-Fi on, it still had 18% battery left after 2 full days. Our battery test returned a battery life of 9 hours and 6 minutes, which is good. Yes, Sony's design philosophy does work in making cheap plastic parts feel premium, and the display is great to look at, and the battery life is reasonably good. It is because of these factors that the Sony Xperia C4 Dual received a rating of 72% from us. But with major performance stutters and an underperforming camera, it is hard to justify a cell phone that has been marked with an MSRP of Rs 29,490 only out of reverence for the brand. The OnePlus One, OnePlus 2, Asus Zenfone 2, and the more expensive Samsung Galaxy 8 all make for much better overall performers and give better return for your money.
Now, Meizu recently announced its flagship smartphone, the MX5 in India, but that's not the only smartphone that's been trending. The M2 Note was recently with us, and here is Hardik's review of the Meizu M2 Note.
The sub-10K smartphone segment in India is huge. You can buy phones in all sizes and with different features. While most of these phones offer an identical spec sheet, there are few phones which rise above the competition. The Eureka Plus and the Lenovo K3 Note are fine examples of such phones. However, their flash sale models aren't the easiest to get through. This makes buying these phones a big frustrating problem for people who aren't very patient. Enter the Meizu M2 Note. The phone comes with quite a resume at a sub-10K price. A MediaTek MT6753 octa-core processor clocked at 1.3 GHz, a 1080p LCD display, 13-megapixel camera, the whole charade. Although the specs don't make this phone any different from the Lenovo K3 Note on paper, the fact that it's available without flash sales does. The question though is, has Meizu done enough to actually be the best performer in the budget segment? Just like many phones launched recently though, the Indian market is fast moving towards performances over specs, which means Meizu only needs to crack that aspect. Like every phone in the sub-10K category, the Meizu M2 Note features an all-plastic build. The phone feels quite sturdy in the hand, and while the build quality is not exceptionally good, it's better than most of its contenders. The design of the Meizu M2 Note looks quite familiar, as some design cues have been taken from the erstwhile iPhone 3GS. It's not the most original design, but it's different, especially in this price point. The Meizu M2 Note offers a brilliant display. The 5.5-inch 1080p display is probably the best in the sub-10K price point right now. It offers the best viewing angles we have seen till now on a mobile display in this price range. Colors are almost accurate, and the display is easily viewable in all lighting conditions. I just have one complaint about the display, and that is, since it does not offer Gorilla Glass, the touch feel is not that slick. I also should mention that the phone comes with just 2 pre-installed Google apps, Maps and Play Store. Basically, in true Chinese fashion, instead of forcing the user to use a bunch of Google apps, Meizu has made it a choice. Good job, Meizu. Let me be very clear, the octa-core MediaTek processor in the Meizu M2 Note is capable, but it still falls considerably short when compared to the Qualcomm Snapdragon 615 powering the Eureka Plus. That said, the phone can handle day-to-day tasks with ease, and multitasking on the phone with 2 GB of RAM on board is also good. In a week of testing under heavy usage, the phone was able to keep up, writing articles using Google Docs, playing Asphalt 8, answering local calls, or editing pictures. I was never given a reason to complain. If you're looking for a well-balanced smartphone under the sub-10K price point, then this is the phone to go for. Yes, it isn't the benchmark-breaking performer that many offer, but it does the job admirably at this price point. Add to that the fact that you don't have to tolerate a flash sale, and you have the best smartphone in the sub-10K price point, period.
Now, we all love how Google comes up with its names for the Android operating system, be it C for cupcake, D for donut, E for eclair, or the latest one that's M for marshmallow. Now, Varun did a very interesting story in the recent past. He went out to our users online and asked them what they thought M should stand for. Here is by far one of the funniest stories that we've done on Digit, what our users think M should stand for instead of Android Marshmallow.
Hey there, Digit users. Now, recently, we asked Digit's Facebook community to approve the name of Android's latest operating system. While the new Android OS won't arrive until this fall, as you may know, Google follows an alphabetic pattern when it comes to naming individual releases after sweets. So, after cupcake, there was donut, then eclair, froyo, gingerbread, honeycomb, ice cream sandwich, jelly bean, Kit Kat, and lollipop. That's right. And now Android M, Marshmallow. Now, not all of you were very excited with the choice of Marshmallow as the latest operating system. So what we've done is gone through your comments and chosen the top comments as to what the name could have been if it had been released in India. Here's a selection of the top comments. One of the most popular suggestions was one of our most popular dishes. Masala dosa would have been better. But as user Rohan Sarkar pointed out, names are supposed to be desserts. SMH. So, Arinjay Jain says, Motichur ka laddu. That's more like it. Manish said munch. Sujit expanded with Milky Way, Milky Bar, and munch. Sure, I like where this is going. Karthik pointed out, I prefer M for Mars Android. Mars 6.0 only sounds good. Yeah, Mars would have been a great idea. What else? Milkshake or mushroom would have been better. Yeah, what? Mushroom? What will you smoke? The king of fruits made an appearance. Mango. And found many supporters. Mango. Even from Russia? Mango. And as if it made a difference, kept adding O's. Mango. And more O's. Mango. Until finally, Chote mein Mango Bite. And then innovation. Mango Maggie. Although Mango Maggie sounds disgusting, it might technically be a dessert if I ignore the ellipses. Fulfilling the Indian outrage quota, Shashwat Pandey adds. According to me and most of my friends, as Google has a very great and large Indian customers of Android, so it must have developed an Indian like these, Android Mithai or Android Mishti Doi, meaning sweet curd in Bengali. So as an Indian, I am very angry with Google. Of course, Shashwat and most of his friends might not be aware that there's an even bigger market in China. By that logic, if Google wanted to hit only one of its biggest markets, it could have chosen a Chinese dessert. But how would Shashwat have felt about moon pie or perhaps misandao? We also had a few that just didn't work at all. In the Badi Bhook Lagi Hai Subah Se Kuch Khaya Nahi section, Shubham says mutton biryani. SMH. Aniket added Matar Paneer. S.M.H. Bro. Aman says Momo's muffins. And some people just walked into the wrong room. Android M for marijuana. And in the matlab ya kuch bhi category, Android Mamta Banerjee. But the internet was won by Saurav Dev, who pointed out what resonated with most users. What's the use of Indian CEO when you can't name it Android Modi? So what did you think of that video? Did you like it? You didn't like it? Well, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to add comments below. And if we've missed anything, let us know. Get in touch and let us know your thoughts.
Well, that's it for the Digit Show this week, but stay tuned as we will be back next week, same time, same place. But before you go, you should check out these two videos that we have on our website. The first is an interview and a close look at the Ferrari California T. Yes, Ferrari sports car in our hands. And also we have our first impressions of the Xperia Z4 Premium that was announced at IFA. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week.
If you like that video, please share your thoughts. Visit digit.in for more videos and check out our Facebook page to leave comments and request to see more videos you'd like. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.